What's up, folks? Welcome to the Modern Truths Throwback Thursday. I'm MJ here with Alex Storm. For those of you who don't know, Throwback Thursdays is when we watch an old school movie and we have a discussion about it. So, Alex, what did we watch this week?
So this week we watched Carrie because there's a new Blumhouse movie called Gallows coming out. Both of them are about essentially high school drama horror stories of some sort. So we figured we'd watch Carrie. It came out in 1976.
1976?
So long ago.
Whoa.
It's so old.
So old.
It was directed by Brian De Palma. It starred Sissy Spacek as Carrie. And yeah, it's a classic. It's based on a Stephen King novel. Having watched it, yeah, I think I've seen it one other time in my 20s at some point. And rewatching it, I can see why it's a classic. It was cool. It was very, very shocking compared to movies today.
Yeah,
What do you think?
Well, any movie that's been remade twice probably is a classic. I mean, maybe it doesn't say bet. I'm sure there's something I'm not thinking of now that's been remade 3 times. It's garbage, but I don't know. Yeah, man, no, this movie is really cool. I just want to talk about, I want to spend most of this discussion talking about all the things that happened in this movie that could never happen in a movie that came out, in 2015. And I'm going to try my best to keep them in sequence, but I could be wrong. So let's just start with the opening scene of the movie.
Lots of nudity.
Yes, slow motion
nudity of
tracking
women.
shot through a female locker room with all these girls naked. And there are 2 things that are important about this. Full frontal nudity, which is something you just don't get, and I don't care what kind of movie it is. You don't see a lot of that anymore these days. And also, the characters are teenagers. Obviously, they're played by people who are adults, but you don't see teenage characters naked in movies pretty much at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that.
There's that, and then there is the kind of gruesome period scene. Carrie gets her first period in the shower with these girls. She freaks out. She thinks she's bleeding to death. And I can't think of another scene like that I've seen in any movie. Watching it, it's disturbing, and you just feel so sorry for this little girl. And then there's just excessive, over-the-top bullying from the entire locker room with girls, throwing pads and tampons at her and, screaming, plug it up. And it seems to go on forever. There's, slow-motion shots of, the girls, yelling, and then the PE coach comes in.
And she grabs somebody,
yeah,
right?
She starts attacking the girls.
She starts attacking the girls, which is another thing you wouldn't see or what even happened in this day and age. But I want to go back to the period thing because it's also pre-AIDS too. So, I think about blood in movies, before the AIDS epidemic occurred. And she's bleeding, she has blood on her hands, and she goes touching some girls on their bodies and things, and she touches the teacher and all this stuff. This is another thing that, honest to God, wouldn't be in a movie now. And it's just one of those subtle subconscious things where I just remember, any number of older films, blood is just treated very differently, the way people handle blood in older movies. It's just whatever, it's just blood. Whereas now it's oh no, stay away from the blood.
True, yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
And then back to the teacher. She slaps Carrie. This little girl is crying.
She's calm down.
Hysterically.
Yes.
And she slaps her to calm her down. And then, she's grabbing the other girls and shaking them. She slaps one of them. To be a teacher in the 70s, well, wouldn't that be nice? You just rule with an iron fist, hit whatever kids you want.
Yeah.
Which happens multiple times throughout the movie.
Yeah, when she has the girls in detention, she goes, she shakes the blonde girl up, the mean girl, and then she proceeds to choke her in front of the entire class, and then the rest of the class is we're okay, we're good. Get in line. So so look, again, we're not going to discuss the entire plot of the movie because here's the cool thing about it. Like a lot of older movies, there isn't a lot of plot here. It's this girl's super weird. Mean girls want to mess with her. She goes to the prom. Bad shit happens, right? And then, I'm going to say...
She also has an insane Christian fundamentalist mom.
There you go.
Who is a huge part of the film, actually.
I'd
say second to the bullying girls is the crazy mom who is
but to me, I don't
scarier
feel
than Carrie to me.
I don't feel there was that much time spent with her. But the cool thing, one of the themes I like about throughout the whole movie is this sex is bad thing, Because in the first scene, when Carrie's washing herself, when she starts to bleed, the mom references it later. She's saying, you started to bleed because you were fantasizing. And she actually was. So that's what kind of makes it even more interesting. I took from that shower scene, with her, facial expressions that she was having she was enjoying herself in that shower a little more than she should have been.
That's not what I took from
Oh,
it.
hey, well, it's each his or her own. And so then tie that back. And then in the movie with mom being like, he laid up on me, took me with whiskey on his breath, and I liked it. Woo, that was great. I was just like, I just really like this idea of this woman just being totally insane. This woman was driven insane by the D. You know what I'm saying? Not in a good way. That's all I'm saying, okay?
I mean, you're right. But I really like the contrast that Carrie is going through in the film, where she's like, suddenly like, realizes that she is crazy and she's weird because of her mom. Like there's this one point where she's like, Mom, like I'm funny, like I don't fit with the kids, and the mom was like, no, like you shouldn't fit in the kids, stay away from them, they're bad, boys are bad, all this stuff. And Carrie's like, no, like me wanting to be normal is not bad. And I felt like that was one of the cool parts. Like there's the part where her mom's like, cover up your dirty pillows, and she's like, they're called breasts, Mom. And it's just like shows the insanity of her mother. And in some crazy way, I can like picture this woman. Like when I picture like insane Christian fundamentalist women, like this movie must have made an impact on me, because this is what I think of. Like these crazy women who are like telling their kids to just stay away from everything.
Yeah, almost 40 years later, this woman doesn't feel very different from some women who exist right now, and that's what we should really be concerned about in society.
Scary part.
But that's a different discussion. So I'm gonna go back to some more old school craziness. So we got to talk about John Travolta's character. He's dating the main mean girl in the movie. There's a scene with them driving to go slaughter the pigs, and they're having this argument. She calls him a dumb shit. And he's like, don't call me a dumb shit anymore.
I mean, I think he slapped her before she even.
No. He like barely slapped her or something, but then he says, don't call me dumb shit, and he pops her. He slaps her like 2 or 3 times in the scene, and the thing is that the girl doesn't react to getting hit in the face multiple times. She just like reacts to him like saying something mean to her or something like that.
She's angry that he's upset, but she is not angry that he hit her. And he hits her other times in the movie, and it's like all the same. And like
so it's just like it's one of these really fascinating things to think that like this movie came out at this time. This was not like perceived as some like out of the ordinary or like
insane domestic violence.
I don't think people that watched this movie thought of the John Travolta character as some terrible guy or something like that. They were just like, okay, I mean, he wasn't supposed to be a good guy by any stretch, but certainly
nobody saw him as like this crazy abusive boyfriend.
Yeah, they didn't see him as like the monster or something, which is totally what he would be seen as now. So, just a little point, take some context, you need to know where you came from to know where you're going and understand how things have changed, and just think, wow, 40 years ago they were making movies where dudes were just popping women in the face.
And nobody minded.
Whatever.
I would be curious if that was even a conversation about this movie after it came out. If there was anybody like, it was a good movie, it was scary, but I really didn't like how he kept hitting her.
Yeah.
Or if anybody even noticed.
I would say no, considering that I feel like I never even heard that come up when people talk about this movie. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's still talked about as a classic and has so many of these scenes that are just like, between our anti-bullying campaigns we have now, anti-violence, anti-this, anti-that, even animal abuse, man. Dude just slaughtered some pigs for some blood. There's just so much stuff in this movie that you could not do now. It's like watching this movie will probably led me for the first time in my life to want to watch the remake of Carrie.
just to compare them side by
how
side.
different it is. Because I'm just like, I just want to see what they, I want to see what they tried to retain. I mean, and I still want to, because, I feel like I had never seen the unrated, like, full version of this film. I'd only seen it, like, on TV. The TV edit. And so someone, let me know in the comments or something if you've seen it on TV. How does the movie start on the TV version? Because the title sequence is naked girls running around. They blur it out? Or is there a completely different title sequence? It's like the intro is so crucial to setting up the story. Even once you get past the title sequence and she's still naked in the shower and bleeding.
Yeah.
How does this movie start on TV? Because I'm 100% sure I've seen this movie on TV for years. So crazy, man. Just absolutely crazy.
Totally insane. One of my favorite shots of the movie, final one, I think that Carrie might have been the movie that set up that final jump scare for all horror movies forever. Because that happens in this movie, and it's coming. Everyone knows it's coming, and it's still so good. It's so on point. Her coming out of the grave.
Yeah. I don't know, man. And it's funny because it's kind of sad that, the other mean girl actually wasn't trying to be that mean, and her boyfriend really was just trying to be a nice guy. And I kind of like that more, too. And you know what? I mean, the more and more, like, Stephen King things that I watch, or even some of the books that I read, I realized he has a theme. Like one of the things I like about his stuff is like it's very often like even when you have the best laid plans or the most positive intent, fucked up shit can still happen. I like that because it feels like life to me sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, hey, I mean, for some reason, like I can see this movie and I'm thinking about the movie The Mist, which also has like this crazy religious lady and also has this really big component of like sort of going along with other people or trying to do the right thing, and then something bad maybe happening to you because you're trying to do the right thing. And I just think it's a really cool theme to explore, and not a lot of movies and other stories explore it. So, props to you, Stephen King, for providing decades upon decades of amazing stories for people like me.
And finally, one of my favorite things when horror movies do this one did it excellent because Stephen King is a master at ending stories, and everyone dies. There's like the one girl who wasn't that bad, but Carrie ends up throwing the knives and crazy stuff, and her mom's dead. She her telekinesis goes nuts. She burns the house down with them inside. All the kids at the dance died. She has a car crash when the really mean girl and John Travolta leave the dance. It was, ideal. Everybody dies. I can imagine seeing this in 1976. It was probably an insanely scary moment. Like zooming in, zooming out of her shaking with blood all over.
Yeah.
Would have been scary. So,
no, that's what I'm saying. For me, it's like, I can still imagine back then, even though things are much more lax than they are now, that this movie still probably was like, oh, never seen anything like this. This is really crazy. I do want to have one more note about the mean girl chasing down Carrie at the end. Totally didn't buy it. And I will say, I was like, really? Really? And just like the one thing I will say, my one critique of the film, I feel like the movie holds up really well. But the last sequence, which is really the standout sequence that everyone talks about the movie for, is the one part that I think suffered from a lack of just technological advances or a lack of visual effects. And so again, it's sort of weird to think that they remade this movie. So my pitch for the next Carrie remake, this is what I think the filmmakers in the world, you may someday be the person remaking Carrie. Still make it take place in the 70s. Don't try to update the story. That's a crucial component of the story, in my opinion. I think that's why, on top of the fact that they didn't have the, teenage nudity and bleeding and pig killing and God knows what else in these new ones. But I think, the time period is really important to this movie, I think.
I would agree. Yeah. I think that's what makes the excessive bullying so viable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All right, well, on that note, that will conclude our discussion of Carrie. Again, I am MJ, and you can follow me on Twitter at @theonlymj, and she is...
I'm Alex Storm. You can follow me at AlexStormTMT, as in The Modern Truth.
And themoderntruth.com is where you can find all of our Throwback Thursday videos, our other discussion videos, and any news you want to know. So thanks again for tuning in, folks, and take care.